Well, last time we hung out at your birthday thingy in our socially distanced park mask scenario on the hill there, um, I remember we were kind of talking about this, and I had said that maybe it's going to be like I'd seen that thing in Calgary where there was a hotel that basically had like rooms of the hotel, going up and
Yeah.
kind of making this courtyard, and it's that seemed like a theoretically possible scenario in which literally each pod is its like a group of people is its own VIP box, and you kind of go in and you do it for the show. If you want to stay the night, you can. And then I started thinking about like ways that they could possibly do that, but that it actually seemed pretty wise. Is that something that you guys are thinking about? Are you trying to think outside the box?
I mean, yeah, there's so many different ideas and so many different concepts, but it's like, most of the ideas I would say that exist right now and the things that are happening aren't really financially viable, like on a large scale. They're more like, everybody's so desperate to have music out there and to have content that we're putting together ideas and shows and, taking like pretty big financial risks to have something out there, but it's just not, I don't think that it is a platform that will work well going forward. Because if you think about a hotel, right? So maybe you have 100 rooms or whatever it is, like, you only can sell 100 tickets to that show. And that's, maybe like on a local level or something like that, that's a viable situation. But anytime you're talking about like a big artist, it's going to be hard to try to make that work. I mean, there's definitely like the pod idea, I think, as we work towards a vaccine is what everybody's trying to think. It's like, if you think about the drive-ins, like you're sort of like in a pod because you have your car and then usually it's like a space next to the car is yours too. So you can get out of your car and you can hang out with your friends in your space. And so that like gives you your own little pod. Or like, at Dolores Park, how there's the circles.
Yeah.
So it's like you go to Dolores Park, you're supposed to stay in the circle. I mean, the same idea. It's like, if we do a show, let's say we did a show at Shoreline, it would be something like that. Like if we, wanted to pod people out and make it work, that would be an idea. But it's just about, whether or not it makes sense, like who getting artists to work and risk themselves is a challenge as well. And then if you think about it, it's not just about the show, it's about, the stagehands building the show, and it's about all the people backstage. And like, I think that there's just like right now, it still just feels so kind of risky to be putting people in those situations. I think that in some places they've done it successfully and it's been great. And I think that those experiences for the people who attended have been really positive. Like all the press and all the feedback I've gotten from them have been, I think people have really enjoyed it, but I just don't think it's something that's going to happen on a large scale,
I guess that makes sense. I wonder too if this means that there's going to be caveats financially from all sides. Like, are artists going to accept less to do it because they want to do it, or are they going to charge more because it's a bigger risk? Are audiences going to pay more because they want to do it and it's something that they can't, like, you mentioned the hotel thing. Each one of those essentially is like a VIP box. You fit like
Totally.
6 people in a room or whatever, and then you roll it out for $600, or what, and if you stay the night or whatever, bring your own booze, however. I don't know. I guess I'm hoping that there will be some modifications versus what people have expected to what they think is real now, because I know
Yeah.
that, like, you guys probably, I've seen the amount of people that you have at some of the venues that you have, but I'm just wondering, like, if you do this differently, is that going to expand or is it going to contract? Is it possible to contract it? I'm just wondering.
Yeah, I think that, these are all questions that we don't have answers to at this point. I think there's different aspects to it. Like, absolutely, the model's going to change and everybody's going to have to give. And I think that everybody is willing to do that. The main goal from every aspect of the music industry is to get it back, to get people into venues, to get shows playing off. And I think that's going to take an effort from every side, which people have been very cooperative with that, which is great. I think the other piece of this that is interesting and something that like everybody's also waiting to see what happens with is what's going to happen with the economy, and I think that is a huge aspect of this as well. So, what sucks about kind of all of this is like we're just in a waiting game. Like we can, kind of talk about it and think about it and make some form of deal right now, but basically every deal is based on if things change, everything changes, so like there's a lot of great intentions out there, but until we have like a real hold on what's going on, I don't think anything's really set in stone.
That seems like to be a lot like what's going on with the education system. As you know,
Right.
we're here for
Mhm.
Blue Bear School of Music, and as somebody who, in my role for the school, I worked a lot with San Francisco Unified School District because we did a lot of offsite programs and after school programs for kids. Um, you know, 80% of what I did is done. It's just dried up and gone. Like from
Yeah.
the event stuff that I did to
Yeah.
this kind of thing. So this what we're doing right now is kind of part of what I'm trying to do. To use that overused term, pivot, and
Right.
and
I know
and,
everybody's pivoting.
and
We're
find
going to be pivoting for a long time is the thing, right? It's like I don't know. I feel very much so for teachers and schools trying to figure all of this out. It's like I think we know in some ways it's like as important as entertainment is, as important as music is, you know, like it's kind of like towards the end of what's actually going to come back, and towards the end of like entertainment in general, it's like you're willing to risk kind of for other things, to try like education.
there's
There's
a
this
great
idea of the risk for education, but can you really have that same like is it worth going to the concert if you don't feel safe? And we want to make sure that people do feel safe, so I think it goes from both sides. We don't want to start having shows too early that tempts people who want to go. So I think there's this balance between figuring out what the right time is, and I think that'll be pretty clear. I don't think that I think that as a community, it'll be clear to everybody when the right time is. I can't imagine people jumping the gun and going too soon. I think there's like some smaller promoters and stuff that maybe are making those decisions, but I think that the like larger promoters in the city are sort of on the same page about like the timeline of it, and the timeline is very unclear.
It is, and I think we also see that different areas of the country are, for very obvious reasons, are looking at this in different ways. You hear about like it seems like if I read like Consequence of Sound or Pitchfork or something like that, every few days there's a story about some artist or promoter that decided to put on a show, and it's like in the headline, no social distancing, and they see
Right.
people just getting hammered, acting like it was
Yeah.
last year. And
I
I'm
think it's complicated. I think there's a lot of people going into those situations with good intentions,
Yeah.
and think that they have the right resources and the right people on the ground to, do it correctly. But then when people start drinking and all of that, I think it's like it can get complicated. I not being there, it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, they suck at what they do or whatever it is. But I think that people are just trying to get creative. And I think also the other piece of this is so many people's livelihoods are just absolutely like just don't exist anymore. There's all these venues and all these promoters who have no income. And when you're a small independent promoter, you like, what are you going to do? You're trying to be creative. And, I can understand that. I can understand the desire to try to figure something out. But yeah, no, I mean, it does not seem overall that it's been going particularly well. I think some of those drive-ins have been okay, because I think that's like a clearer, like cut situation. But I don't know. I mean, it's really hard to judge people for trying to make a living,
Yeah.
At the same time, it does feel like every day you're kind of like, oh, this is just making it worse. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I try not to be too judgmental of other people's choices, but absolutely, like you're really hoping that everybody can kind of like hold on in order to, for us to get to the point where we need to get, where we can really open back up and have shows that are going to be financially viable and all of that.